The only incentive I have is to raise more money, to open more school, more safe rooms, to reach more kids.
So everybody knows that Joe Torre is manager of the Yankees, World Series hero. But how does Joe Torre go from baseball icon to philanthropist?
Well, I guess, yeah, but I was Joe Torre the person first. And it's really interesting. I started playing professional baseball in 1960. And growing up as a kid, I never had a lot of confidence. I started playing baseball. And fast forward, 1987, I married my wife, Allie, and she was pregnant with our daughter in 1995. And this really turned it around for me, John. This is why I'm sort of stopping here.
Sure.
And she says, "How about going to this symposium with me?" It was called Life Success, and she's 8 months pregnant. I'm going to say yes, and I did. I was in between jobs. I just got fired from the Cardinals, by the Cardinals, I should say. And we went into this symposium here. I was named manager of the Yankees now at this point in time, because we're dealing with like early December. I was named in November. And after I'm realizing it's a self-help symposium, but after like day two, I find myself standing in front of perfect strangers crying my eyes out. And it was weird, because people know who I am, and I was always self-conscious about that. And 4 days, it really had me understand why I had certain feelings that I thought I was born with. Why I was insecure, why I really didn't have a lot of confidence in myself, why loud noises scared me, a lot of things. And all of a sudden it was connecting the dots for me, and found out my dad was abusing my mom, which I knew, but I never connected why I had the fears and nervousness as a kid to that. But after 4 days of this, it was very emotional, it was very heavy, but it sort of set me free. Now I knew I wasn't born with the feelings I had, that they were created by what was going on in our house. And I'm the youngest of 5 children, so I sort of was in the house more than anybody else. And it sort of set me free to talk about it. So when we started in New York, and Allie asked me, what charity should we get involved with? I said, how about domestic violence? Which sort of caught her off guard, because I never talked about it a great deal with her.
Let me ask you this, though. You're doing that. At what point does your other brothers and sisters say, hey, what the heck are you saying? Or do they say, hey, we feel the same way? Or did you get support from them? Or?
Well, my being the youngest of 5, I was sort of being protected by my older siblings, more so my sisters than my older brothers. And there was a lot of whispering going on in the house. And if you know anything about kids who deal with abuse, they always feel it's their fault. So when the whispering was going on, I thought I did something wrong. I thought what was happening in the house was my fault, and that I was the only one to feel it, because I never shared it with any of my friends, kids I grew up with. I saw my dad's car in front of the house. I used to go to their house until my dad left for work. But when I decided to do this, and I had called my sisters in the meantime, I said, hey, did Dad do this to Mom? Because I had been going through this symposium and this counseling session, and they said yes. And then I found out even further, when I researched further, that when my dad found out that my mom was pregnant with me, he threw her down the steps, because he had told her that he didn't want to have any more children. And so they were uncomfortable. My sisters especially were uncomfortable with the fact that we were going to start a foundation. And I really have to credit my wife, Allie, with the fact that we were going to do it through education, which to me, it really struck a nerve. Because if we're going to end the cycle of abuse, you have to do it through education. People have to know more about it, as opposed to just putting a Band-Aid on something that's wrong in your life. And it's been a heck of a journey. That's all I could say, John.
Okay, so you start in 2002. You start with the Joe Torre Safe at Home Foundation. How does the whole thing work? And I would imagine one of the biggest things that you have is like what you talked about. How do you get these kids to come forward? And is that the idea that you offer them a venue where maybe they have a safe place to talk about this?
Well, that's what it's about. And it's interesting because we were going to have our first gala. And we had a camera crew that was following us, and we went to this middle school because we were going to do some footage for the dinner. And I'm standing in front of these middle schools and students, and I said, we'll talk about baseball in a minute, but let me explain what this camera crew was doing following me. And I started talking about my dad abusing my mom, and I looked out there, and there's probably 7 or 8 kids going like this, and it just hit me that we struck a nerve here, that there are other kids are sort of like me, that they're not talking about it. Because when we started, I really don't know where not that I don't know where we want to go, but I'm not sure how many nerves we're going to strike or how many people are going to be free to talk about it. And it's been very reassuring. And then we decided to put the safe room in schools, named it after my mom, Margaret's Place. And we have a master's level counselor. And again, it's not something we force these kids to do, but it's there if they feel that they want to go in and find out about it, read some literature about the abuse, and if they feel like talking about it, they could talk about it with some of the kids in the room, or they could talk about it with the counselor. We have books, games to play, so it's really a safe room where they feel like they can go for the part of the day that I want them to feel safe. And we have 8,000 kids that come through our program every year. And we've had kids come in like young men who are thinking of joining a street gang, and they make a couple of trips to our program, and now he wants to go to college. And I think these kids have no direction. I know I was very fortunate. I was able to play baseball. If I don't play baseball, I don't know where I go. So the one thing I've been educated on is the fact that finding out more and more about the different layers of violence and abuse, whether it's bullying, whether it's a husband controlling the wife to the point of, abusing in that way. I don't think that people understand. When we started our foundation and I was trying to get people to come to my dinner, they said, oh, you mean this woman's issue? It's not a woman's issue. You don't realize how many children are involved, how many children, even though they're not physically abused like myself, that have witnessed the dad abusing the mom, or it may be the mom who's locking the little girl or little boy in the closet for a form of discipline. Just a lot of things that leave scars and traumatize these kids.
With that said, did you ever have the opportunity to talk to your dad?
John, I wish I had. My dad and my mom divorced when I was like 11, 12 years old. My mom insisted I get out of elementary school first before she wanted me to be stigmatized with the fact that it came from a split home. That was back, we're talking about, back in the 50s now. So my dad died in 1971. And really, I didn't face the realization until 25 years later what was going on in my life and why I had these certain feelings. I knew I was afraid of them. And it was something that I wish I had a chance to talk to him about that. My mom wouldn't talk to me about it. And, she died in 74. But she would never talk about why she had this black eye or why my dad would wake her up at 4 in the morning to cook for his friends that he brought home. Or if he didn't like something she put on the table, to throw, the dishes against the wall. And I remember one as an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old, when they were arguing, and we went from the kitchen into the dining room, and my older sister, Ray, was holding a knife standing in front of my mom and my dad, and I don't know what the argument was about. But my dad was saying, put the knife down, put the knife down. And with that, she wasn't putting the knife down. He was going into the drawer of the china closet because that's where he was keeping his revolver. He was a New York City policeman, detective. And I went over, I do remember this, I went over and grabbed a knife from my sister and put it on the dining room table. He closed the drawer, he didn't get the revolver out. So and these things, and at the time, you know, it was just something went on in my life. I never realized these were leaving scars. These things were leaving scars on me.
Talking about the foundation with the kids that you're helping, how do you, being a baseball manager, you know whether things are working or not. You take a look at the won-loss record and it's easy to see. I would imagine that it would be more difficult to see, how the foundation is doing. How do you judge whether it's winning or losing, or can you do that at all? Or you just take maybe one case and say, if I help one kid, I'm doing well?
Well, if I'm doing if I'm helping one child, I feel I'm doing well. But we've had thousands of kids come through this program, and the more importantly, we have repeat visits to our rooms, our safe rooms, and the fact that we have this peer leadership group where we have youngsters who help youngsters. So it's really has been. I don't want to say a revelation, but very satisfying to know that when you go in and visit these Margaret's places, that these kids just light up. They're safe for the time they're in school. They may have to go home and witness what's going on in their homes, which is one of the reasons they need the tools to deal with it, which is what Margaret's Place does. So
even though you're Joe Torre, when you go to try to raise money for people, is that a hard thing? And I know Joe Torre gets you in the door, but does you have to present something, I'm assuming, to get what you need?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable asking for money. Right. The only thing I have to keep poking myself in the rear end with, it's not for me. But seeing these children, that's really the mindset I have. And you're right. When I make a call, they return my call, and they'll come to our fundraisers. But we want more than that. We want people to understand. We don't want people to think this is just part of society we can't do anything about. And probably, what's going on and how involved am I? I'm involved on a regular basis. Do I go in the office every day? No. Do I do something concerning the foundation or something to try to help the foundation on a regular basis? Probably.
What type of gratification do you get from that? I mean,
I have a smile on my face knowing that what we're doing is working. So the only incentive I have is to raise more money, to open more more safe rooms, to reach more kids. That's what it's about. It's to reach as many children as we can. Because I've seen over the years now, and it's almost 10 years we've had these Margaret's Places, that we know it's working.